Second.
Any council member care to pull one? On the motion?
Bryant? Yes. Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher?
Yes.
Before I go to the, before I go to, we've got one presentation that isn't scheduled and public hearings. Let me go ahead and indicate to the council that Mr. Zahner, why don't you come on up to the microphone? But let me just go ahead and before Greg gets started, indicate with regard to the authorizing the relocation of the right-of-way conveyance to energy. I think we all know that has to do with the relocation of the power lines on the Smart House Way property. I just want to make sure that those that may be here that want to testify or are interested in testifying on that will have a chance to do that in just a second. However, it's my intent to not call this legislation tonight. I've had discussions today with energy officials about the possibility, I think it was raised by Alderman Witcher perhaps 2 council meetings ago, about co-locating our distribution lines on the transmission lines that are now, our distribution lines are now on the north side of Riverfront Drive. And I know that Mr. Drake, who is in the audience, indicated to me earlier that his conversations had been at the field level, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, and I spoke with some energy officials, actually an official today, who is going to check into that. I understand there are some places in our city, perhaps others, that do already have distribution lines and transmission lines located on them, and so I am hopeful that we'll get a response back that either indicates some modification that we might be able to do or permission to co-locate our distribution lines on the hopefully to be relocated transmission lines. So until I find out the answer to that, it wouldn't be my intention to call that legislation tonight, and for sure not tonight. But I would hope to have an answer back by the next council meeting, and I'll be happy to communicate that as soon as I receive it to the council, as well as I know Mr. Lloyd is out in the audience, and I'll be happy to transmit that response to you if you want that information just as soon as I receive it, and then I would hope we could make a decision shortly after we find out whether or not that option is available. I just wanted to let anybody know that they're certainly welcome. I intend to open that for public hearing and then recess it again until the next council meeting. With that, let me introduce, I think all of you know Mr. Zahner. There was an article about a month ago, 3 weeks, month ago, in the paper about the possibility of us being considered for what I think is an intriguing opportunity. I really never felt that something like this would actually be plausible, but it appears like there may very well be a chance for us to acquire a destroyer. Now that's a 390 feet. We're going to show you a little bit about where we might be able to put it, and some of the details about it, but I want to emphasize that no decision's being made. Mr. Zahner will go through some of the facts. Right now you'll see in a slide that we're about to show, and we'll have this reduced to handouts.
I have some handouts.
If you have them, well then leave them for the council as well as the media, and if you have enough for anybody else. If anybody wants one that isn't able to get one, they're certainly welcome. This vessel has a pretty unique history. Destroyers and submarines are sort of like water and oil, except when they're on the same side.
Yeah, we call them hunter killers.
That's what we are aware of, and this destroyer was followed a bit of the same path that our submarine followed. It was sold to the Turkish Navy and recovered about 2 years or 2 to 4 years earlier than the Razorback came back. It's been in a museum down in Orange County, Texas?
Orange, Texas. It's a
Orange,
city.
Texas, the city of Orange. There had been, over the last several years, the expression of some interest. Orange is not the crossroads of the world in terms of access. It's about 90 miles up the coast from Galveston, as I understand it. And so they weren't really getting a whole lot of, we'll say, frequent activity, and I'm paraphrasing it. And so there had been some conversations about possibly wanting to see if this move could be accomplished and would we be interested. In fact, not only us, but if I recall, there were several other sites that they were at one point considering, maybe on the Mississippi or...
Lake Charles was their other one that they was looking at real seriously.
So, I really never got very serious about it because, we never really were given any strong indication that we were going to be asked for a home. And so, several years ago when Katrina and Rita, principally Rita, came through, the Orlick broke away from her moorings, had a little damage that occurred, and when she was ready to go back to her berth in Orange, they had sold the docks, or at least made arrangements for that real estate to go somewhere else, and that she didn't have a home anymore. And so she's essentially been without a home for the last year 18 months. The association has again asked us if we would be interested, and we said we're interested, but we got to know there's one principal condition, actually two. One is that if we were, we would not be interested in that vessel unless it was delivered free of charge, at our banks. The second thing is obviously that we wouldn't be interested unless the city council approved it. And so, they are going through some steps right now, none of which are dependent on us receiving it, to determine whether or not they might be able to transport it to us and at their cost. We should know that perhaps within the next several weeks.
I'd say within a couple of weeks.
Within the next, we'll say, certainly within the next 2 to 4 weeks. And if it is, then and only then would we come to the council. Now, just to give you a little bit of a summary, and then Mr. Zahner is going to kind of give you a bit of an introduction to it, that the modifications, basically we're looking at realigning and utilizing the mooring facilities that are currently in existence. There would be some modifications. We don't know exactly the extent of those, but you're looking at somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 generally in terms of possible modifications that we might have to do to accommodate that. What that would then do is it would free up the barges that the Maritime Museum have been using, and we could relocate those for rental activity or whatever we might want to do, either someplace else in the downtown area or as has been discussed, possibly carrying up to Burns Park. Carrying them up to Burns Park to be utilized in conjunction with activities in Burns Park. Then the museum and utilization of the vessel itself, the Orlick, would be of some larger benefit in that the space, both the variety of different kinds of spaces would be used for the museum, and other activities could be promoted, we'll say. So with that, now we're not asking the council for anything tonight because we don't know if we'll have the opportunity, but we wanted to plant the seed and to let y'all know what we know, because literally it's still the possibility is still afloat, so to speak. Mr. Zahner?
So first, let me apologize to all of you for hearing about this in the newspaper first, but we really didn't have our facts and figures and stuff put together before that came out. You want to swap slides for me? The USS Orlick was built in 1945. It's a World War II Gearing-class destroyer. It is the only Gearing-class destroyer that is still available that has been frammed. There are another couple of Gearing-class destroyers that are original to World War II, but the Orlick has been modified much like the Razorback was from its World War II configuration, and it was frammed in the 60s. So
What's frammed?
it's kind of like they basically cut off the top deck and rebuild it to support the ASROC, the helicopters, and all the other new weapon systems that came on board later after the war. She is 390 feet long and 40 foot wide, and she displaces about 2,200 pounds, or 2,200 tons. The Orlick itself is in really good shape, and I've brought some pictures, but first let me go to the next slide, if you would. She did fight in Korea and Vietnam, and she was part of the Gulf War. Now, when she fought for the Gulf War, she was in Turkish control, so she was actually a Turkish ship during the Gulf War, fighting for the NATO crew.
When you say the Gulf War, you're talking about Desert Storm?
Desert Storm, the first one, 92. She was sold to Turkey in the mid-'80s, and she served in the Turkish Navy until 1998, when she was decommissioned, and then a group of destroyer sailors actually brought her back to the United States in 2000. They took her back to Orange, Texas, because that's where she was built. During the war, Orange had a big shipping facility down there, and they made ships. So they took it back down there, and then, like Mayor Hayes said, she got damaged in Hurricane Rita, and they didn't have a place to bring her back. They did contact us in 2006 and asked us if we were interested, and we told them that basically there's no way you're going to get a destroyer up the Arkansas River. So they started searching all the other Gulf cities to find out if there was another place they could move her. Now, unfortunately, most of those cities down there that can have ships, like Corpus Christi, Galveston, Houston, they already have them. So they was having trouble finding a home for her, and in Lake Charles, looked like they wanted her. I guess that fell through. I don't know what happened with that. But then they contacted us again and said they have talked to their marine engineers, and they think they can get it here. So that's kind of where we are today. The ship is in dry dock right now. They're removing the screws and the sonar dome for it, so they can get a true draft level on the boat itself to see actually how deep she goes. They have been in contact with the Corps of Engineers on water levels and depths and all that stuff up the Arkansas, up the Mississippi. They've been in contact with Jan Train for their services and stuff. So they are very actively looking at whether or not they can get this ship here. We go to the next pic. This is a picture. Now, I was down in Orange, Texas in 2003 when they had a big reunion down there, and these are photographs that I took at her at the time. So they're about 5 years old, but I do have one recent picture of her in here. So you want to go to the next slide? The outside and the inside of the Orlick is in really good shape. As you can see, this is her bridge section. They have a lot of tin can sailors, what we call tin can sailors, that volunteer, much like our sub-vets do here, to take care of the boat, and that will continue. The next slide. These are some of the rooms within it itself. Like I said, they've started going through and restoring her. She really wasn't in that bad a shape when they got her, so it's kind of like the Razorback. Not a whole lot of work to do from her on the top up. Next slide. This is an interesting picture because this is the 5-inch mount, and they completely restored it and they actually shot these 5-inch guns in 2005. We have videos of them actually shooting the guns. One of the things we have to look at is the firing pins for these guns belong to the sheriff in Orange County, Orange, Texas, and he's already wanting Captain Davis's name so he can send him the firing pins.
Can we point those toward Little Rock?
Oh yeah, they swing. They're completely operable.
So they're operable. So we can
Yes.
point them anywhere we wanted to.
Anywhere we wanted to. And they do fire. I do have a video of them shooting.
Blanks, absolutely.
Next slide. So again, you know,
For
this is
the
kind of
present.
what she looks like from different angles and different sides. Now she has set for 18 months without any maintenance done on her. So some of the paint right now, from what I've seen, some recent pictures, she does need some paint, but most of the rust and stuff have been taken care of. It's just surface type stuff. Next slide. This was a picture of her, as you can see, 3/6 of 2008. This is actually when they moved her from where she was to dry dock. So this is a very current picture of what she looks like. And you can see some of the paint's faded a little bit, and that's basically because she hasn't had any care and maintenance for 18 months. When they got her to dry dock, they hooked up the electric and plumbing and everything. Everything works just like it did 18 months ago. So as far as work goes, I think we'll increase our volunteer staff. There is another group involved, which is called EPIC, and they're the money source for the Orlick. They actually provide money. Now, I know from 2000 and 2006, they supply between $50,000 and $100,000 a year to maintain her, and they pledged that to keep going with that as long as, you know, if we get the Orlick and if we take possession of her.
Let me just make sure that this is a good picture to explain. Part of what they're going to have to do is take the tower down, if I'm not.
Yeah, now the stacks, and the stacks just above the radar, this round radar thing that you see, the radar mast is 48 feet high. Now, we have 52-foot clearance on the Arkansas River. So everything that's higher than that, which is basically the black mask, will have to be removed and re-put back on. Okay.
And that would be part of the understanding.
With them, they are going to remove it. Now, we may have to put it back on. I don't know. We haven't gotten that far because we don't know if we're going to get it here or not. Yes, ma'am.
I was just sitting here thinking, will we be out of any money in this?
We will be out a little bit if it comes all the way through. And you want to go to the next slide? Good place to come in. Garver and Garver actually did a overlay for us. They did some preliminary work to see what would be involved in actually putting the Orlick in place. What they found out when they overlaid the Orlick, which is the red section, if we take the 3 barges out, our spar poles work, our cables work, everything works exactly as it would today. The only difference we would have is we would have to raise the one end of the gangway 7 feet. Just bring it up 7 feet. But the gangways, everything else works, the electrical connections, everything that we have in place today works on the Orlick as it is. Now, to take all that apart and move it and put it all back together is going to cost between $45,000 and $50,000. Okay. Now, the other part of that we're not sure of is whether or not we need one more spar pole, and that won't.
Make sure everybody understands what a spar pole is.
The spar poles are the big black poles that hold the barges out away from the bank. I don't know what another terminology would be for it, but
Well, it's essentially standoff.
it's a standoff from the land that holds everything out so that it doesn't crash into the bank. The cables actually hold it in place, but spar poles keep it from going into the bank. The one thing we don't know is if we'll need another spar pole or not. And that's when the mayor said it could be upwards to $100,000 if we got to add another spar pole. So taking it all apart, putting it all back together, we're looking at about $50,000.
And again, you know, there's no indication from us at this point that we would be in a position to accept that. That will be, once they say they can get her here, then we'll come with the details of exactly what it would take, and then the council will have a chance to make that decision.
Yeah, so can we go to the last slide real quick? Like I said, the Orlick right now, they have to remove the screws and they have to remove the sonar dome. Now, the sonar dome hangs down about 20 feet underneath the Orlick, so obviously it's got to go. They've removed the screws already. The sonar dome, they started taking off today, and they should be done with it on Friday. Now, talking to the guys, the foundation down in Orange, Texas, once they get all that removed, they'll get a true draft, and that will tell them whether or not they can get the Orlick here. Okay.
My question. Didn't we take all of in the depth of the Arkansas River 12 feet?
9.
The certified depth is 9 feet. We were somewhere between 11 and 12 feet when we bought the Razorback up.
Right.
You know, we had, we'll say, the guidance by the Corps of Engineers. They did soundings. The river was at a reasonable level. It wasn't at a low water level, so to speak. So, you can get a vessel up here for somewhere perhaps between 10 and 12, maybe a little bit more, with some guidance by the Corps. And that's exactly what we did with the Razorback. In terms of depth, we'll know more. But again, I wanted to bring this up at this point to kind of give y'all an idea. I know that, again, we were talking about it, but we were never at a stage where we really were seeking your approval. But we wanted to make sure that you knew where we were, since we had, been, we'll say, our story had been shared on a little bit of a not premature, but just a little bit of an early basis. So we wanted to make sure everybody knew exactly where we were and that we had not committed anything. We're just looking at whether or not we're going to be in a position to be offered it.
Yeah, and our next step will be whether they come back to us and say, okay, we can get it there. Then I'll come back to you and ask if the city would like to take it or not. I mean, that's our next step, is not asking for anything. We don't have to do anything. We're basically waiting on them right now to say, we can do it. Because what they're doing is not inexpensive. They're doing a lot of work. None that they wouldn't have to do anyway, whether they was bringing here or not. But even if they scrap it, they would still have to do this type of work. But at least they'll know at one time, probably towards the end of the week, whether or not it's feasible.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
Mayor and Greg, what would we do with the Razorback under this configuration? And for some, I thought we had a commitment with the Corps that would provide a space for them to park their workboat.
Can we go back one slide?
So
The way this all works out, actually, the Razorback will stay basically where it's at. It'll move out 10 feet into the river because the Orlick's 10 foot wider than our barges. So the Razorback would move out. Now, our plans, and again, this is the engineering piece of it, is to move the Razorback all the way up to the very back of the Orlick, because the Orlick will actually be sitting downstream with its stern sticking upriver. Okay, move the Razorback all the way up to the stern, and then the Lipscomb should fit between the end of the Razorback and the bridge. So we don't have to have another barge. We don't have to have all that other stuff that we had to have to support the Lipscomb.
okay.
Yeah, we're essentially replacing the 3 barges would be replacing the 3 barges. 3 barges. We'd essentially be replacing the 3 barges with the Orlick. And utilizing the same configuration.
Just shifting everything up a little bit, and it's something we couldn't do with the submarine and the barges because of the entry points. We couldn't shift the Razorback up and still have access onto the Razorback, so we had to leave her center of the fuel barge or the service barge. But with the Orlick, the Razorback deck and the Orlick deck are going to be the same height, so we can move it all the way up forward, and that'll give us the room at the end for the Lipscomb to park too.
Okay.
Alderman Bryan?
Yeah, on a side note, Greg, I've been through the submarine several times. I appreciate it very much. And you and your volunteers have done a wonderful job on restoring that submarine. And I just want to say thank you. And if you and your volunteers show the enthusiasm that they have on the Razorback for this ship, I think it would be a welcome addition to the.
And I'll be honest with you, it opens up another volunteer pool for us, a big volunteer pool in Arkansas, because there are a lot of destroyer sailors that are biting at the bit to get down and help. So, thank you.
On the, you said 45 to 50,000, I guess, basically to retrofit it to the dock. Is that to retrofit this to the current dock?
Yeah, it's
Is that what it
basically
is?
to disconnect everything, move the Orlick in place, reconnect everything, some engineering in there and some other things.
That's what I was wondering, is this from the 45 to 50, is that like material, or is that manpower hours, or?
Most of
Or
it
is
would
that-
be just
Labor.
manpower because of, lifting cranes and disconnecting those spar poles are
Okay,
22
so
inches.
that's not materials, okay.
Yeah, very little of it would be materials.
Yeah, the only, as I'm told, the only significant cost, other than, because you gotta have a big crane, I assume, to lift those spar poles, and so the only significant cost, not to say that 50,000 isn't significant, would be if because of the engineering, we had to build another spar pole somewhere, that would be used to connect the vessel, and that, I'm not sure, we'd have an exact price, so we'll know exactly what the dollars are if we get to the point we're asking the community to do this, or the council.
I know this is a little premature, but I'm just curious how this works. So that 45 to 50,000, is that for city employee manpower hours? Because, I mean, you've got
We
to
don't
include
ha- I don't
that.
think we have the equipment to.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I know
I
that
think we
would
use.
use city employees, though,
I think
so
we
I
used
was just-
Mobley to put it all together last time, Mobley Construction, because that's pretty heavy metal, and they come in with their cranes and their welders and did all that stuff. So almost all that was done by Mobley originally.
Okay.
I mean, we'd have an exact budget, if, we just didn't want to, come up and, because, as we know, and the Hoga is still, is still out there, and I
Like
don't
an
know.
update on the Hogan?
Yeah, let's give us an update on
Okay,
that.
I talked to the Navy today. We submitted our lift and tow plan in February, and the Navy had 30 days to look at that and tell us yay or nay. Well, it's been 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks now since we submitted that, and they've had some problems. So I called them this morning and talked to them, and they said our tow plan looked good, our lift plan looked good. They have some changes they want done to it, but for the most part, they're going to approve it. So that gets us over one more hurdle that we've been really fighting for the last year or so.
So that raises another question. Where would the Hoga go in this?
The Hoga will go right where it originally was planned to go, right between the bank and the Orlick, between the two spar poles. That don't change at all.
What's the likelihood that we'll need that additional spar pole?
I am not an engineer, so I couldn't tell you, I'll be honest with you. I don't know the marine stresses and stuff that they have, so I would be totally guessing, to be honest, but we can find out. I mean, I'll get as much information up front as I can.
We'll know that before we make our decision here, correct?
I don't know, because part of that is actually doing the engineering piece of it, and, once they get the weight calculations and the speeds and the winds and all that, that'll determine when and if we need that spar pole.
Wait
So
a minute. Are you saying that we will not know whether we need a spar pole until she gets here?
Until we do the engineering piece.
Well, obviously until we do the engineering, but that can be done prior to us making a decision, I would assume.
Yes, I mean, that can be done anytime. We just got to have the money to do that, which we didn't want to spend until we could find out that we had a chance of getting her.
We'll give you an exact financial track on what we need and when we need it, and, prior to us voting on whether or not we want to accept that.
That'd be a good thing.
Now, the other thing, again, and I want to make sure, that, I mean, these are some things that may be coming together at a similar time, but, we're still trying to get the Hoga here, and we, have indicated we're going to do our best to do that, and we'll, in all likelihood, need to come to the city for some assistance on that when that's all said and done. So, again, recognizing that, the council is the ultimate decision maker on these things, but we don't want to surprise anybody.
That was my question on the Hoga. What are we looking at right now? I know the price has changed.
We really don't know. I mean, we didn't know until today, that we were going to have our lift plan approved. Now, that hasn't come in any writing, but, we have been waiting. Well, actually, we wouldn't have been able to get the Hoga here anyway because of not being able to get her out of the water without, two cranes that had been under long-term contract. So, to be honest with you, until we get an actual indication from a hauler what it's going to take. We won't know, but you're probably looking at anywhere from, I'd say, just a wild guess at this point. Of course, price of fuel is another thing that's somewhat up in the air. You're probably looking at somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000. Now, and you know, that's unless fuel goes, you know, out of sight. But any event, Alderman Gaines?
You may have said this, I was looking at something else when you first started that I was surprised about. Are you the one that goes down and inspects the ORIC, or did go look at it?
I haven't. In fact, I was planning on going Thursday to drive down to Orange and actually take a good look at her. I do have a couple of marine survey reports. One was from 2006 and one was from 2007 that I can share with you. They're about that thick, but that basically says she's in pretty good shape. We have an EPA study on her for asbestos and lead paint and PCPs, and they basically said, they're there, don't do anything to them. So, you know, I do have all that information gathered, and I'll be glad to share it with you guys if you want, but I do want to go down and visually look at her before we get too far involved, and like I said, I was planning on doing that Thursday or Friday.
I assume then you would be the one to make the recommendation for us to do this, is that right?
I would give you what I thought would be the best, but then that's going to be up to you guys, I'll be honest with you.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
One more question. How many visitors are y'all averaging right now, and how many do you anticipate averaging when you get this here? If you do.
It's changing every year. The first year we were here, we did about 13,000. The second year we were here, we did over 14,000. Now, last year was an interesting year because we were basically shut down half of June and all of July, but we still did 16,000. So every year it's going up, which is a good thing. With the Orlick being here, I would think that would probably increase quite a bit. And the other thing that the Orlick does is it gives us places where we can have functions, big parties, overnight stays, you know, some of the other big money type things that we really are limited to right now. But I couldn't tell you how much more it would increase.
Just curious.
Well, I do know that you know, we have gotten a tremendous amount of both publicity and certainly credit for. I don't know that I see hardly anything tourism-wise that doesn't have our submarine that's a part of that reflection. So, you know, the uniqueness of what we're a part of, I think, bodes well for us and bodes well for the future. But let's, you know, just beyond that too, and you know, this city is probably as aligned and as you know, involved with the military, you know, because of Camp Robinson and our history there in World War I, World War II, as well as the headquarters now of the Arkansas National Guard, Camp Pike, with the Marines and the Navy, and then in addition to Fort Roots, we have a long tradition and certainly a lot of respect and affection for our men and women in uniform. And I know that it certainly does my heart good when we see folks both honoring, appreciating, and reflecting and respecting on the acknowledgement that this community does for those who have gone before in the not only the Second World War, but certainly Korea and Vietnam, as well as the first Gulf War. So, without you know, standing over there next to the flag and making these comments, you know, this community is well respected and well appreciated for what we've done. With that, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't intend for this to take as long. I apologize for those that are you know, waiting, but you know, I wanted to make sure y'all were up to speed on where we are on our Maritime Museum. With that, let me go ahead and convene. If anyone wants to make any comments, as I said, on the relocation of the power lines, I'll go ahead and convene this public hearing and you know, not refresh my intent to hold it. I'll hold it. The microphone's open. Going once, going twice. I'll recess this public hearing until the same time next council meeting. I know one council member, I believe, on dumpsters. Let me convene a public hearing on 0825 regarding pickup time for commercial dumpsters. Who was the sponsor of that?
Alderman Witcher.
Alderman Witcher, you want to introduce this or just open it for public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll introduce it. Some time ago, I had a resident to contact me regarding dumpsters being emptied by various waste companies in the wee hours of the morning and extremely late at night. Both Mr. Height and I have fielded those calls over the years, and I thought, well, you know, that the aggravation has reached a point where we might need to look at setting some regulations for them. As we got deeper into it, I ended up discovering that, as always, that the dumpster individuals or folks, whatever you want to call them, that would be Mr. Rathman, Mayor, if I can call on him to wander his way up this way, that they could cure those. And Mr. Hyatt had good luck working with Mr. Rathman, and Mr. Rathman was eager to cure the situation. So let's see what Mr. Rathman has to say, and then we can carry on.
Oh, well, thank you, Alderman Witcher. My name's Wayne Rathman. I'm the Senior District Manager for Waste Management, and I am a citizen of North Little Rock. As a citizen of North Little Rock and as a member of Waste Management, we've had a great relationship with the City of North Little Rock. Starting in May of 2002, we sponsored the North Little Rock cleanup and have done so each year. And I know Alderman Parker, you're a big part of that now with Margaret. In October of 2003, we started a curbside recycling program in North Little Rock, which has gone quite well. We've actually, to use the term that I saw in the last presentation, we've displaced well over 10,000 tons of material out of our landfills during that time. We were averaging about 2,300 tons or a year in that program, which I think is a great credit to this community as well as the work of our crews on the streets. In October of 2007, we partnered again with the City of North Little Rock at our Two Pine landfill facility. And at that time, we started taking the methane gas, which 20 years ago was not even thought about. Matter of fact, we were the first in the state to put in a gas collection system. Well, now we're not only collecting that gas, but we're taking that gas and converting it to electricity. And that electricity is being sold to North Little Rock Power. And it attaches to the grid, and my understanding, there's enough capacity there, enough electricity for about 4,500 to 4,800 homes a month to carry their needs. So these are some of the things that our company, that we take pride in that we do. We also service residential as well as commercial customers, and that's kind of how we got brought into this. And matter of fact, I've met two on the council through that issue, and have began a good relationship. We have over 3,300 commercial customers in North Little Rock, and in many cases, they are very close to residential neighborhoods. Our schools, many of our businesses up and down JFK, Camp, Broadway. I mean, most of our major thoroughfares, we deal with this. And when we do, we try to take it on a case-by-case and either reschedule it or try to do it at a better time whenever we find it. I'll be honest with you, we wouldn't start collecting garbage at 2 a.m. in the morning if it wasn't a necessity and a safety issue for both the city, the residents, and our customers. We provide a very a need that all of our customers, I can't help it, but that's what we produce trash as a society. We're trying to reduce it and eliminate it, but it's still there. And it's a tough thing to do, and we try to do it as environmentally sensitive as we can. And at times, we make poor decisions, we're humans, but we try to rectify that and respond very quickly, and I think our company has shown that. I'm sitting here with the general manager from BFI or Allied Waste, and we're both very responsive to the needs and to this issue, to let you know that we're here, and that if we have concerns with this, or if they come, because they'll come to you. I've talked to several in the city, and usually the responses will come to the group sitting before me. So, but I will let you know that. We will respond to it quickly and address it, so. Murray, does that, Alderman Winters, that touch upon some of it?
Sure, thanks, Wayne. All right, in regards to the inquiry that we talked about up on in the New Park Hill area.
Yes, sir.
That was resolved to
Yes, sir.
to the individual's satisfaction. Is that?
Yes,
is
sir.
that my
Steve and I both
understanding?
went to the site. We took a look at we went to the resident's house. We went out about 1,000 feet, took a look, identified what we thought was a container. And there were there's two churches beside it as well. And both of those are actually my competitors. And he's rescheduled those, and they won't be serviced before. We called the resident, spoke with her, and she's quite delighted. It happened, she said it may have been a rare occasion. It happened once or twice, but the last time we kind of caught her at a bad time, and so that was her aggravation.
Okay. Mayor, I think Mr. Rathman has answered many of the questions that we had. And I thank you, Wayne. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And,
Yes, sir.
If you want to have anyone to ask any questions.
Any council member care to ask any questions?
I'll get a
Alderman
statement on
Ross,
it.
and then,
Which one, Wayne, I had a problem also with one of those, and I know, did you get that one taken care of up on JFK?
Yes, ma'am. They relocated that container with the new owner, and it is right beside that house. And yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
reschedule that.
And I will say that Wayne
container.
was very nice and gave me his cell phone number, and anytime I get a call, I'm calling him.
we appreciate it,
And I
Alderman
want the other
Gaines.
cell phone number out there, too.
And I have one, I don't know which one it is, but I've talked to the owner of an apartment complex at least 3 times, because he's near a cemetery, the Edgewood Cemetery in North Little Rock.
Yes, sir.
And it's right when the family comes through the cemetery, by that apartment complex, there's a dumpster there. And I don't know which,
BFI or?
I don't, I sure don't.
And that's Edgewood Cemetery?
Edgewood Cemetery, it must be his then, if it's not yours.
Okay. Are you aware of that, Steve? We will take a look.
Please
and
do that.
Visit tomorrow and get that. You want it moved? I
Yes,
take
sir,
it.
if we
Yes, sir.
could. Yes, sir, please.
Yes, sir.
And because the owner won't do it, I mean, your subscriber won't do it, at all, he won't do it.
The apartment complex is
No.
not, okay.
I would also.
But thank you for being here.
Also, and I'm not sure if it's your company or your competitor's company, but I'd also like for you to look at the dumpsters that's there in Glenview, the Protho Manor Apartments. Those dumpsters abut the property lines of some of the homes there. There are 2 of them. So if you all would look at that and see about relocating that, I'm sure the neighbors would appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me make sure, Wayne, and who is your colleague there from BFI?
Steve Fallon?
Steve?
Waste.
Y'all want to make sure that Ms. Whitby can get in touch with y'all so that, we appreciate both of you being here.
Protho
and,
Manor Apartments, Glenview.
Protho Manor Apartments.
But what we need to do is help them by identifying and make sure we get an exact location and which company is, they usually have stickers on the side, I'm sure.
I'll find out and give you a call.
Yeah, it was his.
It's his.
Alderman
Wayne, you need to
Ross?
borrow my pen again. You need to borrow my pen again, Wayne.
Yes, sir, I did.
Alderwoman Ross?
I think, I am serious about this, but I think all of us need your cell phone numbers rather than having to call Diane, and it may be on a Saturday or whatever, and we have somebody that's very upset about it, and we would appreciate if we all, and not here, I mean, you don't have to tell everybody.
Well,
but
what my
I'm just
intent was
saying.
is to get Diane and then
Okay,
distribute it to us.
okay.
Okay.
all right,
That was
good.
my intent.
That'll work.
Or I'll just give everybody Wayne's right now if you want it. so.
So, Ms. Whitby, if you will get those numbers and then distribute them to the council, please.
Mayor, I just want to say, put in a good word for not only Steve, but for Wayne Rathman. In my almost 8 years as serving as alderman, when an issue like this came up, I've contacted, we worked on this 7 years ago. We worked on dumpsters being serviced in the wee hours of the morning over at Lakewood Village, and Wayne proposed a couple of changes, and we got that taken care of. And I haven't had any calls from those residents over in that area, and I'll probably get some now. But anyway, Wayne has always immediately responded to a phone call. And there are some areas in North Little Rock that, because of safety of not only the people that work at the business, but the customers of restaurants early in the morning, because they don't want the dumpster companies in there servicing those dumpsters while people are going to eat breakfast in the wee hours of the mornings. They want them in there before that, and they work through those. And so not only does Waste Management do a good job in resolving these, but so does Allied Waste, which used to be BFI, and then the other one, I forget to recall the name of it, but they've always been good to work with me and Murray. So they'll, anytime something like this comes up, if you'll contact Wayne or Steve, they'll do everything they can to get it resolved in a very short fashion.
Anything else? Yes,
Are there
ma'am.
any more dumpster companies in the city?
I'm not aware, are there?
Yes.
None.
Shaking
Do
their head
y'all have
yes.
any more competitors other than the two of y'all?
WCA, yes, sir, and I've spoken.
Okay, well, we need some phone numbers for them too, Ms. Whitby, so,
WCA.
okay. All right, with that, let me just ask, do you want to take, because normally we also dovetail in the legislation, and I'm going to go ahead and indicate that I'll hold RO 822, which I indicated earlier, but I'll go ahead and take that action now.
Mayor.
Just a second. Do you have another question?
I want to ask you about something.
Okay.
I wonder if we could recall, I overlooked something, correspondence number 6 for discussion.
Okay, sure.
All right, Mayor, I think based on the conversation, unless someone else steps forward regarding the dumpsters,
Okay, never mind. Yeah,
that
back to it.
I'm interested in withdrawing that.
Excuse me?
Real
Wait.
quickly, I'd like to say
No,
that...
time out just a second.
Okay.
I want to make sure I know where we are.
I'm sorry, I thought we were done. My fault.
Yeah.
0825, I want to withdraw it.
You gonna withdraw
Okay,
it?
so you're going to withdraw that?
Oh, that's good, but I'd like to say real quickly that when I call Wayne or one of them, they respond to the people as well as y'all, quickly as they do y'all.
We appreciate it. Okay, now you're withdrawing that, so there's really
Yes, sir.
no need to continue the public hearing.
No, sir.
Okay, well, we'll adjourn that public hearing then, and now we'll go back. Alderman Gaines wanted, Ms. Whitby, I know that we approved it in the blanket motion, but I certainly don't have any problem with calling number 6 back in the communication. Would you please read that, and let's take some individual action on it without objection.
Yes, sir. It's a memorandum from Charlotte Thomas, the mayor's office. It's regarding an alcoholic beverage request for Amelia Hernandez, doing business as Tequila Guadalajara at 3811 Camp Robinson Road. The request is for an application for Sunday alcoholic beverage sales, retail beer on premises, and your office received this today.
And we did, and the problem is, if that's 3811, I'll have to ask my fellow alderman from Ward 1 if that's on the west side of camp or the east side. I think it's the west side, the Walmart Shopping Center, and if it is, that would not be where, I don't think Alderman Parker and I would want a liquor permit there. Yes.
Well,
They're
look at the
applying for
permit is
Sunday,
there.
they already have one.
Yeah, the permit's there. They're just simply asking for Sunday.
Sunday, it's a
Never
restaurant.
mind. Never mind. Fine. Okay.
Yeah, the permit's already there. This is just asking for Sunday sales. Which I guess is-
on-premises permit number 4.
I guess that's a restaurant.
The restaurant.
Okay, all right.
And I think that's on the east side. West side? Okay, anything
No.
you want to do?
Drop it.
Okay.
We'll accept and file then.
All right, it's already been accepted and filed. We'll just go
Thank
back
you.
to the unfinished business. Ms. Whitby,
Resolution 0821, Mayor Hayes.
I'm going to hold that.
Okay. Ordinances, ordinance 0809, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance adopting the Arkansas Mechanical Code 2003 edition, third and final reading.
Any discussion? Well, the council member have heard me talk about that. Before we go any further, we need to get a motion and a second, and then we'll open the floor if we get that. Any council member care to
Move for adoption.
Is there a second? All right, discussion?
Well, I was going to tell you, I know we've held them off a long time, and Little Rock charges these fees, and I've had problems over there. We may not can do anything about it, but I'm going to have to vote against it anyway. But I understand what you're doing.
Any further discussion on the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
No.
Gaines?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinance,
Well, let me just mention, we've got to put this in place. There's got to be, enforcement. We'll come back with you, and rest assured, we're not going to have this set up tomorrow or the next day. So let me indicate to the council and to the community that nothing will be taken with respect to this code now until I work with planning, and we have an implementation plan that we'll bring back to you. So just, make sure everybody knows that we're not going to be out issuing permits tomorrow by any means, even though that the emergency clause was adopted. We're going to have an implementation plan that makes some kind of sense in terms of how we go forward, since we've never had this. So, it's not going to happen tomorrow or the next day, and we'll come back to council and let y'all know exactly what we think would be the most prudent way to implement this.
I think that we have to do it almost, but I always like to have something that Little Rock doesn't have. They charge that, and they've been really concerned because we're not charging over here. See, and they do collect a lot of money. This brings in quite a lot of money, but I just felt like that it's another burden. And but I understand the mayor's point. We've talked about this many times before, and we haven't done it before, so I understand.
And it's not our intent to make any money. It's our intent just simply to shoulder the cost of implementing this. So with that, we'll work with planning and code to develop a reasonable implementation plan. We'll let the council know, as well as the community, how we intend to move forward in an orderly and sensible way. Next item.
ordinance 0814, Mayor Hayes.
I'm going to go ahead and hold that. I may end up withdrawing this, but at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hold it. We're looking at the Siemens contract. This is the financing for that contract. We're leaning very strongly against going a different direction, so in all likelihood, I'll end up withdrawing this. And we're trying to determine what parts of that contract and how we exactly intend to ask the council for letting us go forward.
Mayor, you said you're leaning strongly against going in a different direction, or you're leaning strongly in going a different direction?
Strongly in going a different
Okay.
direction with regard to the financing.
Okay.
So in all likelihood, I'll be withdrawing this, and to the extent that we go forward with slices of that, we'll hopefully make a decision within the next couple of weeks. Next item,
New business, Resolution 0827, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution reappointing Bruce Waller to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Move for adoption.
Second.
on the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0828, Mayor
Hey,
Hayes.
I'd just like to say one thing.
Sure.
And I probably should have said that, Bruce probably isn't here, but he is a very valued member of that council. I was fortunate enough to serve with him on that commission for several years before I got on the council. And I'd like to thank Bruce personally for taking another term, because he's a valued member of the Parks Commission. Thank you, Bruce.
Mayor, I'd like to also say that I've had the pleasure of knowing Bruce Waller for 40 years, and I served in the National Guard with Bruce, and he is a tremendous asset to this city because of his service on the Parks and Rec, and I'd like to say out loud, thank you, Bruce, too. So,
Ditto.
And we all agree. I know I didn't see him out here, and that's why I didn't at this moment acknowledge him, but we certainly, as the council has indicated, acknowledge his past service, and we appreciate his willingness to continue on. Next item.
Resolution 0828, Mayor Hayes.
Please call
A
it.
resolution reappointing Chandra Martin to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Move for adoption.
On the motion.
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
I don't think Chandra Martin's here, if I'm not mistaken, and we, again, underline our appreciation for her and thank her for her continued service. Next item,
Resolution 0829, Mayor Hayes.
please call
A
it.
resolution appointing Mabel Mitchell as an honorary member of the Senior Citizens Commission.
Move for that. Second.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Thomas, second by Alderman Gaines on the motion.
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes. Mayor, may I have a moment, please?
Sure.
I have had the privilege of serving with Ms. Mitchell both on the North Little Rock School Board some time ago and on the Senior Citizens Commission for the last couple of years. She is a great lady. She's very civic-minded. I think an awful lot of her, and I appreciate the council doing this for Ms. Mitchell, and I know that the commission does also. Thank you. She's provided great leadership, particularly for an area of town that we've tried to get involved with the Senior Citizens Commission, and she has represented them well. And when she will be able to come back and speak for those individuals, I know that she will do that.
And we also underline, what you said and the many other things that she's done, throughout her career. So with that on the motion,
It's already been voted on.
it's already been voted on. Well,
Next item,
please call it.
Resolution 0830, Mayor Hayes.
Can I get a motion for adoption? And then I'll ask Mr. Gertz to come up here.
Actually, I've got to read it.
Good idea.
Okay. A resolution approving acceptance of a settlement settlement offer from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regarding assessment of headwater benefits for the Murray Hydroelectric Project.
Move for adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Now, let me tell you, one way to get a settlement is to send you a bill for $1 million and then agree to settle for something significantly less. So that's basically what this was. We got a bill for was it more than $1 million?
The original assessment was $1,013,000.
Okay, well, then I was about as close as I could guess then. And why don't you explain what that is and what's going on and why we think, less than 1/5 of what they originally said we owed that we're now asking the council to approve.
Well, the federal government has determined that the hydro facilities that it has on the Arkansas River that are located upstream of the Murray Lock-in Dam, that these hydro facilities regulate flow on the Arkansas River. And as a consequence of their regulation of the flow on the Arkansas River, the Murray facility is able to generate more power than it otherwise would if those facilities were not there. So as a consequence of that, they have decided to tax us, in effect, for the benefit they believe that we receive from those facilities. And in taxing us, they're looking back, actually, from 1995 to 2007 and levied an original assessment of $1,013,000, and that was based upon an average energy gain of around 4,700 megawatts that they thought we received due to their regulation. We ended up contesting that and hired a consultant out of Atlanta to help us contest the way that they modeled the flows on the Arkansas River. And there are a number of different issues there, and I won't get into the technicalities of the modeling, but in essence, they came around to our assessment of the model and the errors that we thought were in the model, and as a consequence of that, they reduced the assessment to 918 megawatt hours a year. And so that's what this settlement agreement relates to, is the 918 megawatt hours a year. And the settlement is actually for around $170,000, and then they also charge us for the work that they did to evaluate our assessment. So that's additional $13,000 or $14,000 that we're charged. The total settlement is for $183,000, and based upon the information that we have received from our consultant and the modeling that's been performed, we would agree with that assessment. In addition to that, we also were able to achieve a settlement going forward of $13,000 a year. So unless there's some significant change of flows on the Arkansas River or in the cost of power, then our assessment for the out years will also stay at $13,000 a year.
Alderman Bryant?
Yeah, can we then turn around and have them pay us when we can't run the plant because they're trying to lose too much water?
I don't think it works that way, Alderman.
I mean, wait a minute.
You've heard of what they call the ladder theory, and we're at the bottom of it.
Yeah. I mean, it would obviously make sense that if they're charging us whatever they're charging us, then when they don't provide the water to us because they're turning too much water, then it should be able to go the other way. That's not
Well,
part
you
of it,
know,
don't you?
in addition to this assessment, we pay them $300,000 a year just to regulate us. And then on top of that, we also
Sorry,
pay...
I'm sorry,
Alderman,
I brought it up.
I'll be happy to make you a special emissary between us and the federal government if you want to take on that mantle. We'll be happy to mantle you as best we can. Any other questions?
One quick one. Was this in the budget, or where would the money come from, or?
We had originally budgeted in November of last year $200,000, and that was based on the $1 million and what we determined that, you know, hey, nobody could just fork out $1 million in 1 year, that we'd negotiate a payment schedule if we ended up with $1 million.
Oh, okay.
So there is $200,000 in the 08 budget for this.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious, this is $170,000 that's accumulated over a period of 12 years?
Well,
We're going to have an annual bill
from
to pay?
1995 through 2007.
13,000.
That's
12
years.
The question is there going to be a charge in the future,
Going forward, there will
annual
be-
charge
yes,
of
there will be.
roughly $1,000, $1,500?
It's around 13,000
13 grand.
at this point. That's what we've
That's an
negotiated.
annual charge?
Yes, sir.
All right.
You can assist Alderman Bryant in your lobbying up in Washington.
Yeah, we'll make it a dual committee. Any other questions?
Staying out of this fight, Murray.
Any other questions? While Mr. Gertz is up there, just in case, he and I traveled last Wednesday, last Wednesday to the quarterly meeting of the interest holders at Plum Point, and I can happily report that that plant is going up. We kicked the tires. We didn't get out too much because the rain had just been inundating us, but the Mississippi was up, but not that high, and it's very close. Obviously, the alternate methods of transportation for the fuel between rail and water obviously were available. The plant's basic superstructure appeared to be by and large up. They are virtually on schedule. I think they were concerned that there may have been a slippage of 2 to 3 weeks somewhere in that neighborhood. Obviously, there was some hope that they might make that up. But everything seems to be progressing. It's one of the cleanest construction sites that I think I've seen, and it appeared that those that were there were going to be very good partners with us, and the construction team knew what they were doing and were progressing very orderly, and that the materials were there. So for anybody that wants to see it, you're welcome to. I'm sure Mr. Gertz and I'll arrange it, but we need to probably do it in conjunction with another quarterly meeting, and we'll let you know when the next one's coming up. But it does one's soul good to see $45 a megawatt hour power, and if anybody wants to see it, I'll be happy to. I took a snapshot or two. So just a brief report that the Plum Point is well underway. Is there any other questions from the council on Plum Point? We're continuing to explore other alternatives, and we hope within the not too distant future to be able to look at addressing our electric rates. With that, thank you, Mr. Gertz. Next item.
Thank you.
Do you want to vote on the motion
Yeah,
first?
I think we ought to. You're good. Good point, Ms. Whitby.
Alderman Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
And Mr. Gertz, tell our folks that we appreciate the good negotiating, both for you and your staff, as well as for our consultants. It's always nice when you're the lowest rung of the ladder, and if you need any contesting of that, Alderman Bryant has raised his hand. Next item,
Resolution 0831, Mayor Hayes.
please call it.
Resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to accept the donation of certain property from Floral Properties Partnership.
Let me get a motion on that, if I could.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
That is property that is owned by, basically the person we've been negotiating with is Jim Kincannon. It's a little slice of bank property on the riverside of Riverfront Drive, and they have been kind enough to indicate to us that they would give that to the city, and we certainly appreciate it. And this is part of what we're intending to use in the development of our riverbank, particularly as we go forward with the, with the Rockwater development and increased activity along the banks of the Arkansas. So that's generally where that's located. And there's another companion kindness, we'll say, the Corker family. Sue Corker, I see, is here, that actually we own, then the Corker family owns, and then the Floral Properties Partnership owns. So it's essentially all connecting, and we are looking forward to the continuing movement of enhancing our community by the development of that area, and we certainly acknowledge and appreciate both of these donations as it certainly puts us in a better position to work with them and other opportunities.
This doesn't include that property down there on the riverside of River Road that the people have been maintaining and have built a gazebo, right?
No.
Okay. And the eastern boundary of the property that the Corkers are donating, what's on the eastern boundary of that property? Is it?
The eastern boundary is us.
Is us. It's going to be, okay. Is that going to?
That was donated to us some 4 or 5 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. So this, the first bit of property runs up to that property that's being maintained. The first bit of legislation.
Yeah, I mean,
Is the property-
our property, the Corker property, and this property.
Yeah. Okay, and then on the western edge of this property is owned by, I'm not sure who that is. Do you know who?
Well, there are about 4 or 5 property owners.
Is there 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, sir.
levy.
The mayor and I were both down at the River Trail Saturday, and the people that had that gazebo built have got a boat dock out there, and their ramp was totally underwater to that boat dock.
That's the Ron Burke family.
Okay, yeah.
On the motion.
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0832, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution appropriating $6,151.21 from Act 833 funds for the removal and replacement of ceiling tiles at Fire Station Number 7 on McCain Boulevard.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas? Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0833, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to accept the donation of certain property from Corker Family LLC.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Second.
On the motion.
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Sue, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item.
Resolution 0834, Mayor Hayes.
Please call
A
it.
resolution appropriating $8,674 from Act 833 funds for the purchase of a Ward no-smoke vehicle exhaust removal system for the fire department engine number 4.
Any motion?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion.
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0835, Mayor Hayes, Alderman Ross and Bryant.
We all want that called.
Resolution allowing certain qualified employees of the City of North Little Rock to receive extended paid FML, family medical sick leave, for care of a spouse or child with a serious health condition.
Move for adoption.
Anyone want to comment on this? It's a really, I think it's a good thing that we're able to do this. Now, let me just explain it real quickly. We have a number of employees, in fact, I'm proud to say a lot larger number than I thought, who have well in excess of 300 sick days that they've accumulated. This essentially will allow them, as indicated in the heading of the legislation, to when they have a spouse or a child, to be able to take some of those sick days down to 300 for care of that child or spouse. The second thing is that this, by its own nature, expires at the end of this year. It's my intent to see how this year has gone, and in all likelihood ask the city attorney to please put this on your calendar for renewal, say during the month of one of the council meetings in November, so that we can, assess to ensure that, that it's doing what we hope it will do, and then move for its continuation. When one of our employees only gets to leave with 90 days, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Sisson, and so these additional days, sick days are for sickness. We all know that. And we all know that, unfortunately, whether it be our employees or not, and I like to think they're minimum, sometimes abuse those. And this class of employee, definitely say, is in the class that does not abuse those. So with that, on the motion.
Mayor, quick question.
Okay.
Okay,
I
can
shouldn't
we,
have said anything.
can we unilaterally make a decision like this without approval of our individuals who are under contracts
Sure.
to the city?
I mean, our city attorney wouldn't let us do anything that's not legal.
Yeah, this is fine. You can.
Okay. Well, then can we take anything back from them? The unilateral decision?
Yeah, well,
I
all this
intend-
is-
I intend to support this, but I was, there was just a concern that we were making this decision unilaterally without them signing off on it.
The short answer is we're giving them something they don't already have. We're not taking something away. Thus, we can make that decision unilaterally. If we were taking something away, that would go through the negotiating process with those who have contracts.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderwoman Ross?
Well, what I want to say, this is a benefit for dedicated employees that do not abuse their sick leave, like you said. To have 300 sick days, you've had to have been here 15 years and never missed a day with your 20 sick days that you get a year. So that's truly a dedicated employee. And, like the mayor said, we've got 93 employees in the city that have that. And yeah, I've had people say, why did you not put it at 250? Why didn't you put 200? We've got to start somewhere. This is a starting point. If it's not abused, if we see it's working, then we can always lower. That's all I got to say.
We have voted or have not, Ms. Whitby? On the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0836, Alderwoman Robinson.
Please call it.
A resolution declaring April to be Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of North Little Rock.
This particular legislation, can I make comments?
Sure.
The purpose of this legislation is just to make everyone aware that the month of April nationwide is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And just like to make the people aware, in North Little Rock of the problem and encourage people to call, to make a report to the hotline. The hotline is manned by the Arkansas State Police. And when a call goes into the hotline, they make the decision whether the state police should investigate or if they should contact DHS, Children and Family Services, to take care of it. And also to encourage people that if you know of a family that's having problems, to make every effort to connect them to resources.
I move adoption.
There a second?
Second.
On the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0837, Alderwoman Ross.
Please call it, and I need to add Alderman Bryant's name to it because it was left off.
A resolution appropriating $4,950 from Dark Hollow impact fees for the construction of a drainage ditch and pipe in the alley east of Vine Street between 14th and 15th Streets.
Is there a motion
Move for adoption.
Second.
on the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher? Ordinances, ordinance 0827, Alderman Witcher and Height.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance amending Section 14.26 off-premises signs of Ordinance 7697, the zoning ordinance, to establish clear procedures and references to the sign bank. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place it on its second reading.
I'll second that.
On the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Section 14.26 off-premises signs of Ordinance Number 7697, the zoning ordinance, to establish clear procedures and preferences to the sign bank. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place on third reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Section 14.26 off-premises signs of Ordinance Number 7697, the zoning ordinance, to establish clear procedures and preferences to the sign bank. Third and final reading.
On the question?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinance
Thank
0828,
you.
Alderwoman Ross.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance amending Article 8 nuisances of the Northern Rock Municipal Code Chapter on nuisance abatement and property maintenance. Ordinance number 8001, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross? Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Article 8 nuisance of the Northern Rock Municipal Code Chapter on nuisance abatement and property maintenance. Ordinance number 8001, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third reading.
Second.
After we call the vote, then I'll recognize you. On the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Article 8 nuisances of the Northern Rock Municipal Code Chapter on nuisance abatement and property maintenance. Ordinance number 8001, third and final reading.
Question?
I have a question regarding Section 8331, special rules for basketball goals. And my question is the administrative reclamation fee of $25 per goal. We don't think that that would be a hardship on some folks?
Well, obviously, it would be for whoever's got to write the check. It would be more money than zero. I think the intent, whenever we had sat and worked on the ordinance, the intent of putting the reclamation fee in place is not to penalize someone, is just to recoup our costs. And that's only in situations where a goal has to be moved. I think Mr. Wadley can provide you better information than I can, but the impetus that I got behind that was for the rare occasion that we do have to pick up a goal, and that it is pretty rare that we actually get one, that we could just recoup our cost.
Well, I guess my concern is with some parents, or single parents anyway, they probably just let us keep the goal, and we may end up having an auction of basketball goals. But I just think that, we should probably relook at that. Because when I look at it, and I'm not in agreement with kids playing ball on the streets. I am against that. But when I look at this, number one, they got to probably hire a truck to go get the goal. That's probably about $20, $25. Then they got to pay us $25 to get it. So we may end up just having a lot full of basketball goals.
That's true.
The problem I have, though, is people, that's so dangerous. It's so dangerous for those kids out there in the street because they're interested in that ball and somebody's going to run over them. That's what scares me.
And if we ended up having a whole bunch of goals, then maybe we come back and do something about it. that'd be my feeling, but, yeah, obviously, y'all.
clause is
Yeah,
in
Alderman
there.
Ross.
I'm just curious, is Mr. Wadley here, how many goals we've actually picked up?
He's here.
And are
We
the,
only had to pick up 2 goals. We have issued citations for others, and the others have been, once we post it saying that we're going to move them, they remove them from the street.
so they've had warnings before you pick them up? I mean,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
So they've been
Majority
warned.
of The majority of them disappear. Now, there's some that are on cul-de-sacs that we can't find owners to at all, that nobody wants to claim, and so we're going to have to move them. I mean, we can't, there's some of them that we can't even find anybody to write a citation to over.
Any other questions, Alderman?
What's the charge of the citation? Or is there any charge for it when you give them a citation?
That would be up to the judge.
Okay. Now, we had to have one moved in Bellwood last week, and what they did, the code officer's nice enough to let them move it in their yard. And
We
not
just
give them a
ask them to
citation.
move it off the city right away.
Okay.
Of course,
All
their
right.
experience is they come back at night a lot of times and put it back in the street, so I see Ms. Robinson nodding. I think she's experienced that out in her neighborhood.
But we had a policeman go back out there the next time, and they really stopped it since then anyway. But, okay, thanks.
Alderwoman Ross.
This is it for Mr. Wadley, but the reason that my name is on this is because of the shopping carts, something that we can enforce in the administrative fee. It's passing a $25 fee. The code department has been picking up the shopping carts around the
Yes,
city.
ma'am, we've picked up
And they've been on the
many
lot,
shopping
and
carts.
we've just been giving them back to the stores. And what this does, this places a $25 fee on the shopping carts to reclaim their fee, their shopping carts. And if someone sees, if this is passed and someone does see the shopping carts on the street, would they call you? The code
Yes.
department? So call the code department if you see a shopping cart.
And the street department's
I've
also
got,
been picking
I
them
saw
up
one on
also.
my way here for you. Yeah, I've got you one. Okay. All right.
We're going to be able to enforce this shopping cart.
But
Well,
we're
the
picking
code
them up
department's
now. I
picking
bet
up- they're
we
already
picked up
picking
over
them up.
100, and we're returning them.
We've been doing it for free for the stores.
We've got a
I
shopping
think
cart.
this simply, as I understand what the Alderwoman is doing, is simply gives us an ability to recoup some of our costs for this sort of circle in returning our our shopping cart.
Shopping carts.
Yes, there's no incentive right now for businesses to keep track of their own shopping carts because the city is
We're picking them up for them.
expending the manpower to put them in a corral, and then they just come pick them up once we get them and take them back. And then
I don't have a problem. I mean, I think the legislation is great, but I just, I guess what the stores need to do is just run out there and stop people from taking their carts.
Well, in the past, they've hired people to go through the neighborhoods and pick them up, but evidently they don't have those people anymore. And so it's
Quit
just,
paying
so
people.
now they're just letting the city pick their carts up.
And we've been very generous in terms of doing that, returning them to them.
This may motivate them to go out and start picking them up again.
Well, either that or we'll get a little bit of offset of what our costs are.
Maybe.
One or two.
I know in our area out there too, the stores, they hate very much that people do that, but they don't see them, they take them away, and maybe they'll just quit using them at all, because people, they could do that, they could just get rid of the carts, that's what I'd do.
Well, by doing this, we're saving them money, actually, because those carts are ending up in the ditches, and they're not useful to them anyway. This way, they can come back, and for $25, they can get a decent cart back that hasn't been in the ditch for 6 months.
I'm gonna try to talk ours, just use, not use any carts at all.
That's good.
Any other discussion? I think let's get a motion for adoption on third and final.
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. On the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross? Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinance 0829, Alderman Bryant and Ross.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance granting a conditional use to allow a light auto repair and service shop in a C3 zone for certain real property located at 3504 Sherrill Street in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. First reading.
Suspend the rules, please. Place it on second reading.
On the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance granting a conditional use to allow a light auto repair and service shop in a C3 zone for certain real property located at 3504 Sherrill Street in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Yes.
Bryant, Ross. I saw Witcher's hand go up, so I was hesitating. Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes. Mayor, I'd kind of like to talk about this for a moment. if we could,
If
please.
you want to, we sure will. Let's just talk about it now.
Okay. While I was not at the Planning Commission meeting, I read the minutes, and I noted that the staff recommended opposition to approving this, and then the commission voted unanimously to approve it. I guess my thoughts in poor Robert, sometimes I agree with him, and sometimes I don't. This is one of those that I would like to see us support the staff on, and these are the reasons why. Levy has worked very hard to clean that area up and to improve that area. The neighbors in that area have worked very hard to lift themselves up. We have spent a great deal of money in that area with curbs and gutters to try to enhance that area, and it everything that we have done, I think, has helped in that area. My opinion is that this is not in keeping with the efforts that have occurred down in that area. And so then, and I would hope to generate some discussion.
Hear what you said the last time.
It's not in keeping with the enhancements that have occurred in the Levy area.
We are we're ready for third reading if we suspend the rules, or where are we?
It needs to be read a third time.
All right, then go ahead and read it.
This is an ordinance granting a conditional use to allow a light auto repair and service shop in a C3 zone for certain real property located at 3504 Sherrill Street in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
Okay, now we're going to take a motion to do anything.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded to adopt on third and final. We're in discussion now. Alderwoman Ross.
This is Alderman Bryant in our ward, and we did discuss this, and while I do agree with staff, it was approved by the Planning Commission, which I also think we need to respect their wishes. As far as cleaning up the Levy area, I don't think anybody's working harder than Neil and I are doing over on our side, and I know that Parker and Gaines are working on theirs also. And I know Mr. Tolliver's here, and I've spoke with him several times, and he is aware that if for any reason any of these conditions are not followed, we will be in there talking to him.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. Mr. Tolliver and I have talked on the phone, and he's been a business owner down there for a long time, and is also part of the group that's helping Levy, and I very much appreciate you being here tonight, and I'd like to offer the opportunity for you to say something now.
Well, I've been introduced. My name is John Tolliver, Alderman Witcher. Have you seen the place?
I represented that area for about 12 years, so I'm familiar with it.
It's pretty bleak, and as it stands right now, I think that I've been saddled with, and I've agreed to it, close to maybe $10,000 worth of improvements before I can ever do what I need to do there. I've got to put a sidewalk all the way down the front of Sherrill Street, which the city's not going to have to do. I'm going to have to do it. I've got to put in, I think it's 5 or now it may be 7, huh? 6. I've got to put in 6 hardwood trees. I'm not talking about shrubs, I'm talking about trees, and I've been pricing them, and they're not cheap. And I've got to put in a row of shrubs all along Sherrill Street and all along 35th Street. And I can have a gate there on 2 entrances to my place, or what might be my place. There's one gentleman that's on your planning commission that used to be, or still is, a landscape architect. And at the conclusion of our meeting, he said, well, it looks like that'll be the oasis in Levy if we get all this done. And somebody asked the question, will all this have to be done before I'll be given a permit to open? And the answer was yes. So if you're looking for some beautification in Levy, this is your opportunity. There'll be no cars outside, there'll be no wrecked pieces of salvage around there, there'll be no, I mean, I was down there with the building inspector the other day, and there were more cars on that lot than will be on that lot when I own the place. There were probably 6 or 7 vehicles, some of them looked like they'd been parked there for days. And I don't know if they belong to the firemen or who they belong to, but I'm not allowed to keep a car overnight on the lot. Everything I do has got to be put inside at night. I've got no materials to be left outside, and nothing that I can sway with on that kind of business. All my work's going to be inside. And I explained this to the planning people, that the neighborhood around there this should be transparent to them that anything's going on there. We're open 8 to 5. We're open 8 to 2 on Saturday, and the work that we plan on doing there is not major overhaul. This is going to be a service department, and quite frankly, I think it'll be a huge improvement to the city of Levy.
Alderman Height?
I'm just curious. We've had a couple of bits of legislation come up in front of us here recently where the residents of a particular neighborhood got up and had a tremendous campaign in opposition for something, and I haven't heard from anybody, yay or nay, concerning this, and I'm going to disagree with Alderman Witcher. I think based on this list of conditions here that this business down in between 35th and 36th on Shayer may be a benefit to that area, so I'm supporting it.
Alderwoman Ross? And then
Well, my one question is, under 9 here, it says the hours of operation are 7:30 to 5. Is 5 o'clock going to give people time to pick up their car after work if they drop it off on the way? Have someone take them to work? I know when I drop mine off, if you get off at 4:30, you're really going to...
Well,
That's why I was just wondering how the 5 o'clock was going to work.
It's probably rare that we'll have to do that. Most of the time, if you can't make some other arrangements, if you just simply can't, then I might just stay there and wait on them, until they get there. I don't think that I'm going to be fined for staying open past 5, but if I need to stay there and wait for a customer for a half hour, I will.
We want to amend that to 6, I think, is what she's suggesting.
After 6?
Well, amend the 5 o'clock to 6
I think they
o'clock.
should be changed to 6 o'clock, actually.
I'll take that as a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the motion.
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson? Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Tolliver, but that gives you another hour of latitude
Yeah, it
right
does.
there.
I would rather do that than...
All right, thank you, Mr. Tolliver.
All right, now Alderman
That's the
Gaines.
cutoff.
And answer Alderman Height, the church, Levy Baptist Church is the one selling that to Mr. Tolliver. And what they'd asked me to do was go around to see if there was, if I would, anybody that opposed that, went to the barbecue shop, Wonderful Water Beds, all those businesses around there, and they know Mr. Tolliver, and they were just thrilled, and we told them about what they were having to do, and they thought there'd be a real blessing in that area.
I'll take that as a motion to adopt on third and final, as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion.
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson? Yes. Thomas? Gaines?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson? Yes. Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinance 0830.
Tolliver, I
Alderman
note that that's a unanimous vote, and we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
You bet.
Next item.
0830, Alderman Gaines.
Let me, Alderman Gaines and I have had a chance to visit about this legislation. I know that I was contacted by one developer out there who expressed some surprise at the fact that it was on the agenda for tonight. I know that signs, as we have dealt with before, always seem to produce opinions, and as such, without opposition and perhaps with his support, Alderman Gaines and I discussed the possibility of referring this back to the Planning Commission, ask them to notify the both business owners as well as property owners in the affected area, and to solicit or at least hold a public hearing and to notify those various parties of interest about that public hearing, take testimony on that, have a hearing on that, and then make a recommendation to us with regard to what they feel ought to be done, if anything. Unless I hear differently, Alderman Gaines didn't have a problem with that.
No, what I want to add to it, though, is that how much respect I have, Ward 3 has for the Planning Commission and Norman Clifton and the chairman of that, and Commissioner Phillips. There was a small misunderstanding, Robert. You've been a real blessing for 15 months with this, so we'll go back and redo this, but with clear understanding. I really support the Planning Commission, but this is like taking a knife to a gunfight. We're a little short on what we can do here, okay? I wouldn't want to do this again. About 15 months from now, let's do this again.
Let me just, to see if I can get the council on record, if Alderman Gaines will move that we refer this Planning Commission, would that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
For them to notify and have a public hearing and then make a recommendation to us on the motion?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Robinson? Yes. Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
And one final thing, I know that there's perhaps some confusion with regard to, Robert, you want to come to the microphone just a second, monument signs versus,
Pylons.
versus what?
A freestanding pole sign.
Pole signs. And I know there's a question about what authority as well as responsibility the Planning Commission has with regard to imposing certain signs versus certain other signs under our ordinance. I'm asking if the city attorney will share with you his opinion as to what that latitude is with regard to the Planning Commission, and you share that with the Planning Commission as to what their responsibility might be concerning those options.
Will do.
Thank you. I think that concludes, Ms. Whitby, the agenda. Before I open it up to any council member and then our public hearing, let me just underline my appreciation to this council and this community for indeed putting our best foot forward over the past weekend. We had somewhere between, I'd say, 25 and 35,000 guests that set foot on our real estate, and I can tell you in talking to the athletic director, Chris Peterson, Michael Marion, the manager of Alltel Arena, as well as various partners that we've had in putting on our show for the past 4 to 5 days, as Friday and Sunday were our big days. I can tell you that all the comments, we had a couple hiccups. One, on Friday, the arena had a little challenge in finding some of their volunteers to man some of the concession stands at Alltel, but outside of that, it wasn't inconsequential when you look at, we receive out of every dollar 4.16 cents of those sales. So, we're very interested in people being able to make those purchases, and yet outside of that, everything else that I heard with regard to this city and certainly this city, that was an arena, we'll say umbrella that fell under, has been nothing but glowing terms. So let me express on behalf of all of us how proud we were to be the host geographically, and then partnership with Little Rock in terms of the overall host, with ULR being the lead. And I heard enough comments to believe that should we go again, that we may very well see that tournament return. Again, we have the NCAA, not the NCAA, the Southeast Conference Women's that are going to be with us this next year, if I'm not mistaken, and I could go through others that are finding our geography as pleasing as we do. So thanks to our employees, thanks to police, as well as Public Works, and everybody that pitched in on making this a really grand opportunity to show off our community. With that, any council member, Alderman Height?
Just two things. I sit next to the head of the Little Rock Convention Bureau, Dan O'Brien. yesterday and he assured me that he was going to get up bright and early this morning and start the process of applying for the NCAA first or second or third round here in three years from now. The other thing I wanted to do is I want to take a moment of grandfatherly privilege and to announce that, and I'm probably going to start dominoes falling here, but I'm going to announce that the number of Heights living in Ward 4 is going to increase by one somewhere around the 1st of November as a result of our son Andy and our daughter-in-law Ashley Height informing that Becky and I, a week or so ago, that they were going to be having a child, or our grandchild, or their first child in November. So anyway, I wanted to take that moment of grandfatherly privilege.
That's always legitimate, Alderman.
I see Chief McCall is here tonight, and appreciate, Chief, we know you've been under the weather a little bit, and we appreciate you back, and good seeing you again tonight.
I'd like to see Chief Bradley when the meeting's
Bradley, and
over.
I want to visit just briefly with Chief Bradley, too. You're recognized, Ms. Whitby.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to remind everyone that the North Little Rock Friends of Animals Chili Supper fundraiser had to be rescheduled because of the weather that we had earlier this month. It is this Friday from 5 to 8 at the Park Hill Christian Church, 4400 JFK. Tickets are only $6, and takeout is available, and I want to encourage everyone to go by and buy some chili to support the animals.
Anybody else?
See Mike Smith for a minute.
On our agenda items of interest, we also want to point out that the North Little Rock Women's Club Carousel Ball is April the 5th at our senior center, and that is at 7 o'clock in the evening, $50 a person. I can give you some phone numbers, but call City Hall if you're interested, or the senior center. And that's a great group, and they've got a terrific event, and we'd encourage you to consider it.
Mayor, Charlie, will you come up just a second? The Senior Citizens Commission met today, and Charlie shared a bit of information with us, and I thought it might be interesting for the council to hear this information regarding one-day attendance at the Hayes Center that we hit 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Over 800 people came in one day, and we're shooting for 1,000 in September. We go down a little bit in the spring and summer, but over 850 people came one day.
Okay, guys, look at your budget and see how much money you're investing in the center. So it's a good buy.
It is a good buy. We also had 13,200 hours of volunteer service this year too, for this past year.
Carly, you continue to do magic there, and we appreciate it. And it's with the volunteers as well as your very dedicated staff, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Public comment section, the microphone's open.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Bobby Taylor, and I'm back again. I don't know where y'all are working on this or not, but it's this problem that I've been talking to you about. It's not getting no better. I don't know how much longer it's going to go on, but last week, I never even made eye contact with these people. 2 of them followed me to the shop, and I wouldn't want to tell y'all what they told me. I hadn't said nothing to them. And I know the city attorney has been writing notes, and as I look at all of y'all sitting up there, 2 women and the rest of you are men, and I call you gentlemen and ladies, but y'all wouldn't be none of a lady or nothing of a man if you didn't do exactly what I'm trying to do and try to do something about this. And I want to say to our lady alderman, alderwoman, and alderman, I want y'all, if it's possible, y'all to get y'all's head together, because this is as much of y'all's problem as it is mine. And I'd like to invite the rest of you, and you too, Mayor, City Attorney. This may be in y'all's next door just any time. And I don't know what has happened to our nuisance and abatement deal. I was told over a year ago that it was almost back in effect. And the last 3 words of that flag, as we pledged allegiance to the flag tonight, was justice for all. There's no justice in this. Not at all. For nobody. And 2 weeks ago, we had our crime watch. And Mayor, I know when you was out there, you said you was going to help them. That was brought up. And they just still waiting on you to, whatever it is that you mentioned, I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, they said that they're ready for it. And there was another phone call to me that I was blaming our police department for some of the stuff that's going on in Rose City. That is not true. And I also told them at the Crime Watch, and I wanted to say that here tonight too, that I have had a real close relationship with the North Little Rock Police Department ever since probably the last 15 years. The first 5 years of the Crime Watch, I didn't have too good a relationship with nobody because I couldn't get no help. But anytime you start something, you're going to have problems. I don't care what it is. But since then, our police department, I feel like, has done what they could. I know sometimes they've been a little bit late about coming, but I'd rather see them late is for something to happen like it happened at Cabot, not wait for a backup. If it had been 2 there, more than likely that would not have happened. And I have a great deal of respect for our North Little Rock Police Department. I may not always agree with everything they do, and they don't always agree with everything I do, but I'll be there with them till the end. And I still want y'all all to get together, see if y'all can't come up with something there next door to me before something happens. Thank you, Mayor, and I'll see y'all in 2 weeks.
Mr. Taylor, rest assured, folks have been working on it, and if it was as clear as it was as easy to determine an action that could be done, I can assure you it would be done. But that is not as clear as, at least as it's reported to me, and I'll make sure that you get that same report, between now and the end of the week. But rest assured, they have been looking into it and been trying to determine a proper course of action, but are difficult in finding something that they feel can be addressed very easily or at least very quickly. So
I'm not accusing you of dragging your feet. I'm just asking you to do something before somebody gets hurt, and then somebody say, well, we didn't even know anything was going on.
I just wanted to mention to you too that we are doing things, and we're trying to determine if there's anything that we could legitimately have an opportunity. So I didn't want to leave our silence or my silence up here to imply that we're just sitting here waiting for you to come back in 2 weeks.
No.
We're not doing that. We're going to do the best we can, but it's not just easy.
Yeah.
There's not an easy course of action in this situation.
And I know the police department can only do what they have something to do something with.
We're doing our best to try to figure out if there's something that we can do.
You can't take 6 of them and put them in 12 different places at one time. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. I'm Jim Ard. Mayor, I shared with you what I'd be talking about tonight. Alderwoman Ross or Alderman Gaines, what's the site up on the blog? What's the site? I don't recall, have it written down. Okay, nobody wants to tell you the site.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even ask for it.
Yeah, I need to know the site.
Block spot, I'm sorry.
Say it again. Put your mic on, say it. Put your mic on, say it.
Or anything else I can do for you right now? Levy Project Block Spot.
I didn't realize what they put up there when they nicknamed our mayor, nicknamed his secretary, and other things.
Okay, that's a different block spot.
That's the one I'm after.
Okay, I don't know about, that's a different deal.
Well, you respond to it, so I just figured.
No, not, Art, before you start in again, I didn't respond to it. Never been on that blog in my life, never signed on to it, please.
I don't know anything about that
If I
block.
hand you a printout, would you believe me?
Yeah, I believe it.
Okay. But anyway, the one I'm talking about, they refer to our mayor
Yes.
with nicknames. They refer to his secretary with nicknames.
They did.
I may not agree with her, and she may, and I hate to do this, Mayor, but I'm going to be honest, she may flip those cigarette butts out on city streets, and we have to call it to your attention. But she's your secretary, she has a name, they need to respond with the correct name. We elected you as mayor, you've done some good things for North Little Rock, you've earned that title as referring to you as mayor. And I can't believe these people will get up there and make some of the comments they do. It's really degrading. On top of that, they like to sign it anonymous. If they care so much about the city, why don't they come down here to the council meeting and get up here and complain like I do? Why don't they be willing to let their name be put out and then be ridiculed? I am not happy with how they treated you, Mayor. I may not agree with you. And by the way, for what it's worth, what they're putting up there, I'm sure you'll have an opponent, aren't you?
Mr. Ford, Mr. Ard, I appreciate your comments. I don't read those, and if someone's inspired by those words, and have at it. I have made no announcement at this point, and we'll just have to wait and see. But I too agree that if anyone wants to make some comments that they feel in the best interest of this city, then I would encourage them to do so, and even if they're not in the best interest of this city, but if they don't choose to put their name behind them, then I don't choose to concern myself with them, to be honest with you. So, with that, folks are entitled to freedom of speech, and with that, I'll ask the council if they'd like to end the speaking tonight by a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening. And I certainly don't have any comments on that, but I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Heather Calloway, and I have concerns about our city, our police officers, the future of our city, and that's why you'll see my name on the ballot on May 20th for North Little Rock District Judge. So I just wanted to introduce myself to you and hope that I'll be working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, and we certainly look forward to working with our judges, and we appreciate you coming. You're always welcome, Heather. Yes, ma'am. We've got more folks that want to make some comments. Yes, sir.
How you doing today? My name is Christopher Ojuku, and this is Mrs. Brown, my advisor. And I first want to thank the mayor for supporting the petition for Barron Cross, because so often we feel like everybody forgotten about us in the high chairs, but that's obviously not true because you're supporting us, and I thank you. But we're in the process of getting a recreation center for Barron Cross, but we do need the financial support, so that would really be, if y'all take that in consideration.
Chris is, I'm his mentor, and he's really serious about having something started in the Barron Cross neighborhood. I'd like to say thanks to the mayor for supporting the sidewalk petition and the beautification of the great Barron Cross neighborhood. I thank you for meeting with us, taking the time out and meeting with the community advocates for Barron Cross. You've been there for us, and I know you believe. I know that's your where you grew up, so I know that it takes a matter of time before things come together. I'm speaking on behalf of the youth of Barron Cross. I want to thank my Alderman Linda, and we will be talking soon. I want to thank Jack Finnegan and Jack Roberts for inspiring me to speak out and be active in the city council. My name is Michelle Stewart Brown. Again, I'm from Barron Cross. I have been a resident there for 17 years, and as you can see, I'm not going anywhere. And thank you for DJ, my newspaper guy who has done some coverage for me almost a year ago today. But we just wanted to say thanks for supporting us, Mayor.
Well, we appreciate y'all being here, and we look forward to working with you. We're not going anywhere either, and we're going to make things happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Bryant?
Yes.
Ross? Yes. Robinson? Yes. Thomas?
Yes.
Gaines? Yes. Parker?
No, that was innocent.
Witcher?
You gotta go.